Hello there, welcome back to Cinema Flicks Music Picks. I'm Davey, your host with the most, the beast with the absolute least. Well, the least I can do today is a rather impromptu review of the new Arrow edition of David Cronenberg's 1991 misunderstood masterpiece, Naked Lunch. Just about to be released by Arrow. They are dispatching pre-orders rather early. It's not an adaptation of the William Burroughs novel of the same name, except for when it is. A literal adaptation of that would have Cronenberg locked up and probably a ban on all film ever, just in case anybody ever attempted to try and do that again. So what it does is it cherry picks elements of the novel, which is absolutely worth reading. It's a brilliant novel, but it's William Burroughs. And it takes elements of William Burroughs' real life. Some of the most fantastical elements in the film are not from the novel, but from his actual life, and adds in little parts about half-remembered truths about him, rumours about him, and then the very real life, should I even say the words, just in case it's a bit of... No, he was convicted of murder, and somehow ended up with a suspended sentence. That's the world of William Burroughs in real life. It was as strange as his own novels, only he could be found guilty of an actual bloody murder and never go to jail for it. But that was William. So this takes the elements of the novel that Cronenberg could identify with. Clearly, there's a lot of themes and a lot of insect moments that they diverge, that they converge on rather. And Cronenberg is the perfect person to paint an abstract picture of the novel. So rather than do anything straight as if he could, Cronenberg is just the ideal person. There's nobody better to take William Burroughs and, to use an awful modern cinema word, reinvent him for the big screen. So let's have a look first of all. So the plot. There is no plot to really talk about that's going to make much sense beyond Peter Weller is an exterminator, and the powder that he uses to go about his job as an exterminator, he and his wife try, and it affects their psyches, should we say. And from there, nothing's ever quite the same again. That's about as much as you can go in without just throwing bizarre imagery, and the kind of the linear plot kind of ends there, and bonkers stuff starts to come in afterwards. Insects start talking, and typewriters basically, you remember the rocks that start talking and everything everywhere all at once. Imagine that was completely normal and you're kind of in the world of Naked Lunch. But let's have a look at the set first of all. So this is again from our good chums over at Arrow, and I've already flipped the cover to give us the VHS cover I remember, with Peter Weller. Trying to make it look a bit more normal there, aren't they? As if, Peter Weller, he's RoboCop, he's Buckaroo Banzai. This film isn't that weird, rent it. And then some more of an extension of the artwork in the front for the book. And, it's the real boys and girls, it's only a deluxe edition. Should we have a poster or postcards? So on this side we have, and on the reverse, so there we go. Interesting they didn't go with the just Stick Peter Weller in the front. Hope the Robocop crowd don't notice this film's fucking bonkers. Brilliant quote to start off with. The title means exactly what the words say. Naked lunch. A moment when everyone sees what's on the end of every fork. That explains it by explaining absolutely nothing. So as always, Arrow have surpassed themselves with these. I bemoan their smaller booklets sometimes, but when they do a good job like this, with the perfect bounds and things. So we get an introduction by David Cronenberg himself, an essay by Vanessa Morgan, after Naked Lunch and towards Naked Lunch, so kind of what was building up to it and things that would happen afterwards, by Jack Sargent. Dead Ringers do Naked Lunch, Cronenberg on Burroughs. An extract from Cronenberg on Cronenberg, which at the time just meant David talking about David. I suppose now it could mean Brandon talking about David, couldn't it? Now we've got the two Cronenbergs. So you can see there, I mean, if you just plastered that in the poster, as some of them did, you would think you were dealing with some neo-noir film, wouldn't you? Oh boy. Oh boy. No, we're through the looking glass. Peter Weller's performance in this is brilliant. He's very stoic, and at first you can think it's a rather dull performance, but it becomes almost heroic just through his flatness as the world around him becomes just incredibly bizarre. The cast, Judy Davis matches him beat for beat. Ian Holmes in it is fantastic. Roy Scheider's even better as Dr. Benway. One sad thing, Julian Sands is in it as Yves Cloquet. Julian Sands, kind of erratic actor, you never knew what you were getting with Julian Sands, but he's been missing since January. He was a noted hill walker, and in the hills of California he went hill walking and hasn't been found since, so he's not passed away yet, but because you have to wait for missing persons for so long, but yeah, it doesn't look good for Julian Sands, so hopefully a miracle will happen there. Written, directed by David Cronenberg, based on the book again by William S. Burroughs. The wonderful score is by Howard Shore, who also did the score for The Fly, for example. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Ornette Coleman is on it as one of the performers, and Ornette Coleman was in the 70s familiar with William Burroughs. William Burroughs was at the recording session for some of Ornette's material, which was this kind of bizarre tie-in that you don't need, but hey. It's Music and Movie Channel. We're going to tie things in from time to time. So there's the old VHS cover that I remember, that picture. Some good essays. So it's a vintage essay from Cronenberg, it's not a new one. I'm going to avoid anything that's not just too explicit, because it's not really that kind of movie, but I don't want to spoil the weirdness of it for anybody going in for the first time. So I'll give you, you'll obviously know from the bloody cover that it's weird, but I'll give you a little indication. There's old Bill himself. There he is with Cronenberg. What a pair. Oh, can you imagine those conversations? There he is meeting one of the creations of the film. Yeah, this is packed. Look, it's absolutely stacked with stuff. Yeah, full interviews and things. It's not one of the, again, which I do bemoan Arrow for in their individual booklets. 20-page booklet and it's 16 pages of publicity stills, which it's fine in its own way, but I like to read something. So that's a great shot of Cronenberg. Yeah, and there's your dream team: Weller, Burroughs, and Cronenberg. All that. Glasses United. Yeah, see, now there's a shot that I'm not going to show you. On page 54 for anyone who wants to play along. God, Peter Weller looks more like James Woods there. Yeah, this is absolutely stats. Not much more, and then it gets some international posters. It's always interesting to see how they present things all over. You know, are they going to try and pretend it's something it's not? I mean, look at that Asian one there. I mean, again, in the West, we got this one, which just does not allude to the weirdness therein. And there you go. Naked Lunch has been exclusively restored by Turbine from Germany, in partnership with Arrow Films, in its original aspect ratio of 1:85.1, with a restored mix of the original stereo audio as well as the legacy 5.1 mix. Scanned at 4K at Diffusi Toronto. Confirmed, graded and restored in 4K in standard dynamic range. This is putting me to sleep, for fuck's sake. Yeah, it's interesting to read. The 5.1 mix is from Studio Canal. So James White was the kind of Arrow correspondent on it, but a lot of the work was done by Christian Wolf and Phil over at Turbine in Deutschland. What do you mean it's a literary high? It's a Kafka high. You feel it being a bug? Yeah. Wonderful book. One of Arrow's best. Oh, excuse me. The Roses are back. You'll never catch me. And then Arrow have surpassed themselves when it comes to not just giving us a few art cards, which is the kind of standard here, but here's what you get here. So we do get our art cards, right? But then on the reverse, greetings from Inner Zone. Exterminate all rational thoughts. That is the conclusion I have come to. And excuse me. And that's what they all say on the reverse. They're all done literal postcard style for a change. I wonder if when they do give you them as actual postcards, does anyone actually send them? Break up their sets and send them? Again, I'm just checking to make sure there are no spoilers, no. And then there we go. You have to end with Mr. Burroughs himself. Looks like such a lovely old man. He was a lovely old mentalist, you know. I mean, after this, even though he looks as if he's on death's door there, he made an album with Tom Waits in '93, The Black Rider, and he's on that. He sings. He talks a song. Ain't no sin, so come on in and dance around in your bones. And then this is more of a powerhouse thing, an indicator thing, but they've also given us a couple of little extra things from the film. So here's your Arrow Steamship Company Limited passage ticket for William Lee. So that's nice. That's more of a meta thing rather than from the project itself. But what we do have here is Dr. Benway's card. Yeah, that's cool. I love stuff like this. This is just the Dirty Harry set where I've got Dirty Harry's badge. You'll see how elegantly this works. Dr. Benway. Exterminate all rational thought. William Lee, Exterminator. Yeah, and that is Peter Weller's character. 2-disc set. Millions of extras on this. Let's quickly run through because I've been battering through them today. So yeah, 4K restoration. There's all this is the limited edition stuff. So the 4K restoration, reversible sleeve, double-sided poster, 80-page perfect book. We've gone through that. All the extra stuff that they didn't even advertise there that I just showed you. High def presentation, original lossless, 5.1. New audio commentary by Jack Sargent. He's a film historian, and the screenwriter Graham Duff. Fascinating. That was one of the first things I stuck on. A lot of things I didn't know about the project, and a lot of things I didn't know about Burroughs. So make that probably the first thing to dig into. Disc 2 a new interview with Jeremy Thomas, the legendary producer of this film. Exterminate All Rational Thought, a new interview with Peter Weller, who's in good form on this. Sometimes Peter Weller's a bit of a diva. I remember seeing him on a Buckaroo Banzai thing, and he was just, it was kind of like, why do you idiots like this? It's just a stupid movie. He was very above it, but he's on form on this one. Peter, I'm going to butcher your name, Peter Shushkete on Naked Lunch, a new interview with the celebrated DOP. A new interview with special effects artist Chris Vallis. That's brilliant. You want to watch that because the special effects on this project are remarkable. Ballad for Burroughs, a new interview with Howard Shore. Again, fantastic. Being interrupted here. Can I help you?
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Ridiculous in here. Anyway. See, this is the kind of thing I'm never going to edit out. So a new interview with Howard Shore, which is great to hear how the hell do you come up with the soundtrack for some of the most bizarre stuff ever made. A new interview with David Huckvale. He is someone who is a film scorer himself, but he is a musical appreciator of film scores, and he is on a lot of the Hammer things, for example, and he's very good at talking about other composers' works, deconstructing them, explaining why they work. And Howard Shore, although he's done some very mainstream films, he's also able to do some very obscure films and very bizarre films and do the soundtrack accordingly. So David Huckvale kind of goes into the process of how the hell do you score this and what makes this soundtrack so interesting. And it's also where I got my little anecdote about Ornette Coleman. A Ticket to Interzone, a new visual essay by critic David Cairns, Naked Making Lunch, an archival making-of documentary directed by Chris Rodley from his own personal 16mm print, and you get a new audio interview with Rodley discussing his connection to Cronenberg and the process of making that documentary. Which again, that's been on things before, but it's interesting that they've even gone to the director of the making of and said, can you now do a making of the making of? Comprehensive. Concept art gallery, theatrical trailers, image galleries, never before seen stills, etc, etc, and again contains from the BBFC, our good friends at the British Board of Film Classification have said this is 18 rated, contains drug use and strong sex. Suitable only for persons of 18 years and over, not to be supplied to anybody below this age. This is London calling all the ships at sea. We should bring that accent back. It kind of disappeared in the 50s or 60s. Bring it back, that BBC voice. This is the British Broadcasting Corporation. I think James Mason killed it. Hello, I'm James Mason. Anyways, this has been another rambling one with interruptions from my friend Richard, and he threw a parcel on the bed. I don't know, that might be another video, who knows? And then just my usual incoherent mess of a presentation style that you expect anyways. So, at 18 minutes and 55 seconds, I'm going to call it quits there. Folks, stay very safe out there. Not there because you're in another place, but you know what I mean. Stay very safe out there, and as always, love and indeed mercy. Oh, by the way, this is recommended. It's really, really good. This is awesome. It's fantastic. This is release of the year material.